There's kind of suggestion that he will play. Hopewadi, similar. I think Hopewadi is the most likely to play out of those two for me. But Alex Walmsley as well. There's talk about him not being fit, so he's hopeful that the foot injury he picked up the other week in the game against Wigan, that he didn't really realise had happened at the time, he said, didn't he? It was a bit of an innocuous one. He's hopeful it won't keep him out of the playoffs. He was wearing a moon boot at the Super League Dream Team unveiling on Sunday morning, so him and Farrell were both in gear like that, with Farrell wearing a leg brace. But yeah, it's that seems to be the one that the biggest doubts about from what Wolf has been saying with his comments. That's a bit of a worry for St Helens in the short term, in the immediate term. Desperately hope Walmsley can be fit for the World Cup. We've got good forwards to bring over from Australia, but he's a point of difference, and I'm desperately hopeful that he's fit for that tournament. I've kind of written Percival off for the World Cup, and that's a shame because he's one of our few class centres, so we have to start thinking about out of form Oliver Gildart maybe, or putting Callum Watkins into a position he hasn't played a lot this year, or hoping that Harry Newman can be fit as well.
Yeah, I mean, Wolf's been talking down Percival's chances. I read that on our league, so that doesn't fill me with confidence that he'll be back for the World Cup anyway.
And talking to Christian Wolf, head coach St Helens head coach Christian Wolf will leave the club at the end of the 2022 season. We basically talked about this happening last week, but it hadn't been confirmed. It now has been. He's going to return home to Australia to take up a role with the new NRL side, the Dolphins. 47-year-old arrived at the Totally Wicked Stadium from the 2020 season as the replacement for Justin Holbrook. During his time with the club, Wolf has led them to consecutive Super League titles and a Challenge Cup victory, and of course this League Leaders Shield victory. So he's won all the domestic trophies now. And at Mike Webb 58 said, inevitable in its way for him to return home, but Wolfie managed to pick up the mantle brilliantly from Justin H. He continued to build the team and the culture of the club despite the intervention of COVID. Before the injury to Dodd, Wolf Ball version 3 was at its peak. He goes with the best wishes and respect of the club and the town. Once a saint, always a saint. I wonder if that applies to people like Eric Connolly and people like that. But yeah, no, he has got a good legacy. That first season was a tough season for everyone, wasn't it? That COVID season, and being away from home and stuff for the first time, doing your job over here, and he strung a team together that battled just that little bit harder for just that little bit longer in the grand final, didn't he? And got the bounce of the ball and started his legacy off. And then last year, that defensive side for the last 2 years, they've conceded at less than 13 points a game on average across 2 seasons. It's just it is in Super League, that is remarkable.
Yeah, I mean he goes back with a greatly enhanced reputation. You would certainly say. He's done some fantastic things. He has built on. I think I was a little bit critical of him early on. But you can't really argue with the trophy cabinet that he's built over the last 3 seasons, can you? Really, he's won everything that you can win now. But yeah, for me, the big question is his replacement, and are they going to look internally as you were discussing last week, or are they going to look somewhere else? Brett Hodgson's like just come on the market.
Wellens is the favourite, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I would. They have a tendency to go internally, don't they? Sometimes with success, sometimes not.
I think that's the problem, isn't it? And that's why Wolf was a good appointment, because they stayed external. They identified that they can win the competition a different way with a different type of coach. And then this year, with the 2 young guns, Dodd and Wellesby, in the first third of the season, they were looking like they could have an exciting attack as well. As the Wolf defence that I mentioned, and yeah, I thought that was a really clever choice of them, because there wasn't anyone ready internally. But now I think they probably think Wellens deserves a chance. Otherwise, is he ever going to get one?
I think that's a fair point. I think they are. Every team has a kind of a period of dominance, don't they? And the one thing that Saints will be wanting to guard against will be other teams kind of catching them up a little bit. I think, we've talked about, other teams are probably a bit closer to them this year than they were last year. And they need to maintain the momentum if they're going to want to keep winning things. So it's not an easy job to replace Wolf, just as it wasn't an easy job to replace Holbrook. So yeah, whoever gets the job, it's going to be a challenge to go into a winning team.
Yep. As Mike alluded to, former Samoa and USA international Joseph Paolo has played his final game of professional rugby league after deciding to hang up his boots. The 34-year-old played his last game as his Toulouse side lost to his former side, St Helens, and of course there was those scenes after the game. Joseph Paolo will always be, by the rugby league romantics, be remembered best for his time as Captain America in the 2013 World Cup, won't he?
Yes, a player who's had a very, very illustrious, long kind of domestic and international career. So yeah, he's been a very good player pretty much everywhere he's been, you would say.
Yep, but retiring at 34, whilst 36-year-old Harrison Hansen has signed a new one-year deal to stay at Toulouse next year in their championship season as they try to relaunch their way back into Super League. So that's someone who keeps going. Final standings for 2022 of the Super League is St Helens top on 42 points, Wigan second on 38 points, Huddersfield third on 35 points, Catalans fourth on 32 points, Leeds fifth on 29 points, Salford sixth on 28 points. Outside the playoffs, Cass finished on 26, Hull KR finished on 24, Hull FC on 22, Wakefield on 20, Warrington in 11th place. I picked Warrington to finish top of the regular season. What a fucking prediction that was. 18 points, and relegated to lose on 10 points. Quite a distance away from the rest in the end, it has to be said.
Yeah, but I mean, I think we'll talk about it in future episodes, but I think we all had Warrington a bit higher up than 11th.
In his senior, 2 tries, 233 metres and 2 clean breaks is the stat line of the week. Player of the week. The only game I would have been picking player of the week from was the Cass Leeds game, and I don't think anyone deserves it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There's a lot of kind of what game matters and whatever. You're right. I'm not going to pick anybody because this round was was a bit of a weird one.
One too many.
Yeah.
I went 4 out of 6 in the predictions, so did David, but he managed to remember to put them onto his Super Brew, and I think he actually changed a couple of them as well after he saw the squads. So in the Super Brew, he's top of the host Super Brew and has the yellow cap. I'm second, you're third, Sarah's fourth. In the main Super Brew, David's also top of that because, of course, he is the 7th best picker in the world. Neil Ormston has the yellow cap this week as well, to sit alongside his position at the top of the Fantasy League, although he has told me he's fuming that he believes there was a game in the round 25 fixtures that hasn't been updated at all onto the scores. He still maintains so, but he's still top anyway of our league and the other league that he was in, so he needs to chill out. He's done fantastically well. Top scorer this week was Mark W with 768 points.
That's very good in a week where there's weird squads. That's very good.
It is very good, yep. I thought the Fantasy League ran through the playoffs as well, but maybe it doesn't. I thought it did. So we'll find out. The picks definitely do. But thanks for everyone's fan views on these games. We'll have fewer games to talk about, but we'll probably have more to talk about from those games as they become more consequential now that the playoffs are due to start next week. The playoffs did start in the Women's Super League, which we're going to get to next in the other results.
So we move into other results, and we'll start with 2 intriguing Women's Super League semi-finals. It finished York 12, Wigan 4, a lot closer than I think most people expected.
Another game at Headingley that was 0-0 at half-time and then had 3 tries in the second half. But this one felt more engrossing because you thought one team was going to get battered and one team was going to run out clear winners, and it just didn't play out that way. what an effort from the Wigan players. It made me feel like this Wigan team, if it had had Vicky Molyneux fit all year, if it had had Becky Greenfield fit all year, if it had even come close to having any of our halfbacks all season, Alison Burrows coming off the bench and having a very shaky kicking game, to be fair, to be honest, for her first game this year, and obviously Rachel Thompson not fit all season. It might have been a different year for Wigan, but Lauren Beville got a try, which was nice for her, but York were definitely the better side. It just took them a long time to be that, didn't it? And I think if they hadn't have scored that try so quickly after the half-time break, in the first minute of the second half, that try they scored for Andrade, I don't know that they would have won. I can't say for certain that they would have won like this. It was a very close game.
They do have. I mean, we've said a lot about how this is kind of an ex-Castleford team, and it largely is. A lot of these players have got scar tissue from losing playoff games, haven't they? In women's matches.
Well, effectively, none of them, because Rhiannon Marshall doesn't play anymore because she's banned, isn't she? Because she hates the RFL. None of them that were playing have won anything, really, have they? Other than a few might have won back in their Bradford days 5 years ago.
Exactly. So I guess it's. Yeah,
they won the League Leaders Shield now, I suppose, though, actually. And they were presented with that after this match, which was weird, because imagine if they'd have lost this match and then had to,
Oh, my God. I'd have almost paid to see that.
What a shocking decision that would have been, eh?
Yeah, it should have been done before. Anyway, and the other match finished St Helens 6, Leeds 14.
At Mike Webb 58 said, great defensive display from Leeds. Saints finishing in the first half let them down. Inevitable that the crucial try would come from a Courtney Winfield Hill kick again. Yeah, big weekend for the Winfield Hills, weren't it? Because Lauren won the women's 100 on Saturday, and then Courtney went and put in a match-winning try assist on the Sunday for this game. St Helens obviously made a choice that Jodie Cunningham wasn't fit enough to play in this game, and that was talked about a lot during the game. Probably was a decisive factor as well. They've not had Faye Gaskin all year, have they? Which has been not great for them. But I think Zoe Harris, who's been fantastic for St Helens this year and last year, to be honest, whenever she played last year, I think her naivety showed up a bit in this game. Her lack of experience in seeing out a game showed up. I think her kicking game was poor as I've seen it be, and that meant that Leeds always had a pressure release. It felt like, especially with the Goldthorpe, Beavers, and Robinson on exit sets were really good at making up the distance in the field position that Leeds were giving up by making mistakes with the ball, and I just thought that ultimately tipped the game in Leeds' favour by the end.
Yeah. It's how do you think St Helens are going to look at this season?
I think they'll be disappointed because they were they picked up where they left off, didn't they, with the Challenge Cup run. They were so dominant, and then Leeds challenged them in the final, but they didn't. It never felt like Leeds were really going to better them in that final. But ever since then, York beat them, Leeds beat them. They trampled all over Wigan and Huddersfield in a way that York didn't manage to, if we're completely honest. But yeah, they've got to be disappointed. The England Galacticos, or whatever you want to call them. But even mid-season they picked up Shona Hoyle, didn't they? Another England prop, and they didn't beat Leeds in the forwards in this game, even though they had Crowell, Hoyle, and Whitfield, who actually was outstanding. She was exceptional when she came off the bench. But other than her, I think Leeds matched it. I thought Daniel Anderson was brilliant.
Yeah. Obviously, it's a bit of a come down from last year. I think this kind of approach that we've had in terms of concentration of talent, the true test